I'm tempted to give Cyber the top. In fact, we're going to start off with one for just for the name change to habeas corpus.
Yeah.
Well played, my man.
Yeah, nice handle. Nice handle. That's that's like a Twitch streamer level like name right there. Okay. The world didn't end.
It didn't, but it did catch on fire a little bit.
So wait, is abortion like magically illegal forever across the entire world?
So, turns out that the leaked thing is it's a draft decision that hasn't actually gone into effect yet. May go into effect in 2 months or so, and
confirmed by Chief Justice Roberts, by the way.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Just putting that out there. Like, there you go.
And when it goes into effect, it doesn't actually change any existing laws, except for the federal interference with individual states' decisions on whether or not to have laws. So, blue states will still kill babies. Red states will still respect life, right? It's not complicated. St. Michael says Roberts is sus AF. While I disapprove of your vulgar colloquialism, I agree in substance. You're correct. Roberts is suspicious, is incredibly suspicious.
Yeah, so we're not 5 minutes in yet. Try not to drop the F-bomb yet.
So, if Roe gets overturned, then yes, the decision goes back to the states. And states that have a majority freedom-loving Americans will stop killing babies. And states that still hate you will still kill babies. Steve says, I am truly discouraged by the number of folks I know that think killing babies is a paramount concern and shame conservative women for disagreeing. You know, that's going to be a bit of a derailment from where I want to go with the show this morning, but we're going to be talking about this George Carlin quote that's trending on Twitter right now, where apparently George Carlin is just an absolute genius. And sorry, Patrick, I'm going to decanonize St. George. But Steve's point right there is excellent, and it actually speaks to the broader problem with feminism generally. The feminist movement does not say we want women to be free to do the things they want to do. Instead, what the feminist movement does is it shames women for not doing the things it wants them to do. Rather than, we want you to be free to make your own choices, it's, you're a weak woman who has internalized misogyny, and you just don't care about yourself if you have a family and raise your children and choose to be a stay-at-home mother or choose to be a working mother. Right? The feminist movement is pro-abortion. And to be clear, I don't mean that they are pro the right to choose to abort your baby. They're not in favor of you having the right to voluntarily sacrifice your young on the altar of Moloch in exchange for success and a career path. No. They actively encourage this. Like we mentioned yesterday a bit, we went from safe, legal, and rare to you're not a good woman unless you've had an abortion. The position of the left is quite simply, you haven't had the experience of womanhood until you have aborted a child. This goes so far as, I think it was Amy Schumer that said, I wish I had had an abortion. And this isn't a woman who wishes she had gotten pregnant and therefore had the opportunity to have an abortion. This is a woman who has a kid, who has said clearly that she would prefer to have had an abortion. I wonder how your kid feels, sunshine. So, St. Michael says, I'm waiting on the riots that the media are going to call mostly peaceful to start. They already have. And so I'll go ahead and bring up the New York Post article. Thousands protest leaked SCOTUS ruling on Roe v. Wade in in New York City's Foley Square. And we're not going to get into the stuff about the leak today. We're going to talk about the abortion bit a little more today, but and the position of the left on abortion. St. Michael says Amy didn't abort her baby, which yes, correct. But yeah, the riots have already started. They went straight to the Supreme Court and are having to be stopped at the gate, But this isn't an insurrection. It's not the same thing at all. This is totally just a bunch of violent protesters, violent rioters showing up to a federal institution to threaten and intimidate a group of people into making a decision they want. And there's a reason this happens. And that reason is weak Republicans. That reason is weak law enforcement and corrupt law enforcement. So over the past several years, we've seen a few things happen, which include the BLM riots. As a result of the BLM riots, we saw, for one, you can't catch COVID while you're rioting. Apparently, that's something PBS told us that. Okay.
Oh God, Cyber. Oh Jesus.
So PBS told us, and the news generally told us, that Trump rallies were all super spreader events, but you can't catch COVID if you're at a rally at a riot unmasked. They work differently, right? Only conservatives can have super spreader events. If everybody in Joe Biden's cabinet suddenly has COVID, that's not because of something they did. That's because COVID is evil. But if everybody in the Trump administration were to catch COVID, that would of course be because they were science-denying bigots who use horse medicine instead of doctors.
Wait. The same science-denying bigots that think life begins on day one?
Funny story about life beginning at conception. There is no other scientific delineation for the beginning of life. The left will argue that life does not begin at conception, but they will not make an argument that life begins at any other point. They cannot.
You know what's funny is they actually pull a much more insidious trick, okay? They don't necessarily argue that it doesn't begin at conception. Instead, what they argue is a bunch of nebulous terms like, well, it's a fetus, right? Well,
right.
It's like what Obama said when he was asked at the Saddleback Forum, when does life begin? And he said, that's above my pay grade. I mean, screw the fact that I'm running to be president of the United States, the job that has the highest pay grade of the entire world. But answering that question is above my pay grade. It was sort of like when Ketanji was like, oh, well, I'm not a biologist. I'm not real sure I could define what a woman is. And it's for me, it has been, and for some time now, like the literal moment that the egg is fertilized and implants into the woman's body and it changes the hormone patterns of the woman's body because she's now pregnant. Well, it changes the hormone patterns of the woman's body because she's now pregnant because it is a separate life that needs a life support system. Thus, it changes the... So that, for me, that has always quite literally been the second that life begins because it's separate DNA. Anyhow, I'm not trying to derail. It's just, we're the ones who are anti-science, but we think only women can get pregnant and life begins on day one. Just putting it out there. Clump of cells argument is stupid.
Sutures and a prosthetic don't make you a man.
Right.
So, This is the quote from Carlin that's trending, and we're going to take it piece by piece. Conservatives are really something, aren't they? Says Carl. Okay, you know what? You can see it well enough. I'm going to read it to you. The left-hand side of the piece is cut off in the...
It's fine. Let's just read it.
Conservatives are really something, aren't they? They're all in favor of the unborn. They will do anything for the unborn. I'm going to read the quote straight through and then take it piece by piece. But once you're born, you're on your own. Pro-life conservatives are obsessed with the fetus from conception to 9 months. After that, they don't want to know about you. They don't want to hear from you. No nothing. No neonatal care, no daycare, no Head Start, no school lunch, no food stamps, no welfare, no nothing. If you're pre-born, you're fine. If you're preschool, you're fucked. Conservatives don't give a shit about you until you reach military age. Then they think you're just fine. Just what they've been looking for. Conservatives want live babies so they can raise them to be dead soldiers. Pro-life, pro-life. These people aren't pro-life. They're killing doctors. What kind of pro-life is that? What they'll do anything they can to save a fetus, but if it grows up to be a doctor, they just might have to kill it. They're not pro-life. You know what they are? They're anti-woman. Simple as it gets. Anti-woman. They don't like them. They don't like women. They believe a woman's primary role is to function as a broodmare for the state. He says this about conservatives, and we're going to take it apart piece by piece. They're all in favor of the unborn. Yep, I'm all in favor of human life. And I've heard the argument made as well. Oh, I could be pro-life and pro-death penalty. That just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry. How can you be pro-killing babies and not pro-killing murderers?
Yeah, that's one of those where if you flip the argument around, it's...
I've met babies, and I've met murderers. I have felt the need to kill murderers. I have never wanted to kill a baby. In fact, I have killed murderers, and I have not killed babies. And I feel that I am morally right in having killed murderers and not killed babies. I don't think that's complicated at all. Babies are good. Murderers are bad. Please, oh please, argue me on that one. Please argue with me on that one. Babies are good. Murderers are bad. Right? Okay. We talk about common ground sometimes, and I want you to understand this. When you are arguing about common ground with leftists, you are arguing with people who cannot agree to the proposition that babies are good and murderers are bad.
Or that boys have a penis and girls have a vagina.
So,
what is it? At some point, there's an end to the giving of ground. It's just turtles all the way down. These are the people you're arguing with. Like, if you cannot agree that 2 + 2 = 4... you can't have a conversation about math with somebody.
Right.
Can I take the next section? Finish your point, but I just...
No, go ahead.
It's this next little bit, these next few sentences...
The whole thing about how they don't care about you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but once you're born, you're on your own. Pro-life conservatives are obsessed with the fetus from conception to 9 months. After that, they don't want to know about you. They don't want to hear from you. No nothing. No neonatal care. No daycare. No Head Start. No school lunch. No food stamps. No welfare. No nothing. If you're pre-born, you're fine. If you're preschool, you're fucked. Okay, couple of things there. Notice how everything George mentions there is taxpayer-funded things.
Yes.
Right? That's
a major point that I want to really drill on this. Everything he mentions there is done by force, right? Like we said at the beginning, the violence has already started. They're attacking police in Los Angeles. They're gathering to riot at the Supreme Court already. Everything the left does is predicated primarily on force and violence. That's what authoritarianism is. That's what abortion is all about. In more than 90% of cases, the decision process goes like this. I have a child, it is inconvenient, and the solution to an inconvenience, because I am a leftist, is to do violence and cause the child to die. The solution for a leftist right? We brought this up with Nina Jankowicz and her "Govern Me Harder, Daddy" tweet about how, oh yeah, bring on the lockdowns because people aren't taking masking seriously enough. Please force it. Please mandate. Please force. The solution, the leftist solution to absolutely everything is always violence and force. And it's not violence and force as a last resort, right? Pro-death penalty guys like me, violence is very much a last resort there. We're hoping that people don't go around murdering each other. But when people are doing constant violence to one another, and they will not see reason, I'm not pro-death penalty. I'm pro-capital precaution. Dead rapists don't rape people, dead murderers don't murder people, and dead terrorists don't blow up fucking buildings. If you kill the bad people, they don't do bad things anymore. If you kill the babies, they never do anything.
Yeah, so, anyhow, to go back to it, all right? The whole thing is everything he mentions is a government program. And it's not that conservatives are against, for example, feeding hungry people. Most conservatives, and this is a thing that you can look up. If you look up who is the most charitable, who is the most generous with both their time and their wallet.
This is exactly the point I was going to make on this.
A middle class, frankly, white Christian conservatives, nobody is more generous than that group. Period. Now, on the average, obviously there are exceptions, but if you look at the averages, especially when you look at the right versus the left dichotomy, you can say what you want about Mitt Romney, but that man has given away 10% of his income every year for the past 35 years. Whereas, what was it, the one year it came out that Biden had given away, like, precisely $5,000, and that was it, right?
And if you'll remember, that $5,000 was justified by a set of receipts which included his donating his old underwear to Goodwill.
Oh my God! Yes, yeah. I forget the exact.
It was like $300 or $400 worth of the $5,000 was underwear. Old underwear.
What kind of underwear?
That he gave to Goodwill, which is mind blowing because, as I understand it, they won't take it.
Right. This is one of the few things they won't take. Okay, all right. Anyhow, the problem with his statement here is it's the government doing it, because there's a few pieces to it. One, and this can't be overstressed enough, the government is extremely inefficient in just about anything it does. Governments really, they destroy things, they mess things up, and
it costs extra money for them to do it.
And it costs.
They do it badly, and it costs more for them to do it at all. That's everything. It's literally everything they do.
Right. So anyhow, the government does things terribly inefficiently, okay? And it costs more money. That's what conservatives have a problem with, is it's not that we want people to go hungry. It's not that we want widows to starve and all this other bullshit they hit you with. It's that we like to see things happen properly with our dollars, and we don't like being forced to do things. Like, it's funny, when you start to force a person to do a thing, like, just as an example, all right, I'm going to briefly reference the poke, and that's all I'm going to call it. How many of you would have gotten the poke if the government had not come out and said, hey, get the poke, get the goddamn poke, get the poke, get the poke? How many of you would have gotten the poke if the government had tried to force you to get the poke? I know for me, I delayed getting the poke because I was like, I'm not really that much at risk, I'll wait. But then as I waited and the government kept telling me, I have to get the poke, I have to get the poke, then I was like, no, I don't in fact have to get the poke, so I'm not going to get the poke, right? And then the other thing is,
Seaver, don't poke the Pope.
Right. And then the other thing is, with this whole concept of, oh, well, if you were really pro-life, you'd fund all these programs. No, I've had a problem with this from the beginning. Oh, okay, we can't afford a thing, so let's just kill it. You know,
right.
What's funny is these same people These same people would tell you that animal shelters shouldn't be allowed to kill dogs that have been there for too long. Because, just because you can't afford to keep a dog around doesn't mean you should euthanize it. But if we're talking about a clump of cells inside of a woman's body, now all of a sudden it's my body, my choice, okay? And, yeah, so that particular sentiment there has always bothered me. Always. Well, you won't fund welfare, so you're not really pro-life. No, I'm okay with not killing a thing that hasn't done anything wrong. That's what makes me pro-life. Now, you could say that I'm not pro-welfare, fine. And if you want to make an argument that makes me cruel, you'll be wrong, but at least that's an argument that you can make. But this whole thing about you're not really pro-life because you're not pro-welfare, oh, that's right. Again, I'm going to do this more often.
Well, and those are similar issues, actually, because the whole point, like I said earlier, the whole point with abortion, in more than 90% of cases, is this child is inconvenient, and so we will do violence because we would rather not be inconvenienced. We don't want to accept responsibility for our actions. I am pro-choice. You can choose not to go get knocked up, shithead. Once you go to bed with somebody, you've made your choice. You've chosen that the choice you've made is you've looked at the risk-reward matrix, and the reward of your sexual pleasure is worth the risk of a minimum 18 to 20 year commitment to individual responsibility. But responsibility is not a thing that leftists like to hear about. It's not a thing that they're comfortable with. And that's another part of all this crap that Carlin talks about here, the neonatal care. Yes, you can have neonatal care. Just go buy it. No daycare. Yes, you can have daycare. Just go buy it. Pay for it.
Well,
right?
he kind of fucks up.
If you want a thing, that doesn't make it my fiscal responsibility. I have a Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms. Does that mean you have to buy my ammunition? Because that is exactly the argument he's making, is that you need to be funding my ammunition habit. That is exactly the argument that he's making, is that you need to be funding my internet access to support my freedom of speech. That is exactly the argument he's making, that you need to be funding my having a church to attend to protect my First Amendment liberty. That's insane.
Well, the same logic that they use for the abortion, because the Second Amendment's enshrined in the Constitution, so not only should the federal government give you an ammo stipend, you should literally be able to own as many guns as you want, and the government have no registry of it, because you have that whole right to privacy, see?
Correct.
Just saying. But no, we can't use their logic against them. How dare you?
And I'm going to kind of gloss over the bit about killing doctors.
Because what the hell does that even mean?
He's making a claim about a few radical anti-abortion activists.
Oh, killing abortion doctors.
Because this was in the mid-'90s. There were a couple of incidents where some abortion clinics were bombed. I think one doctor was killed. We've seen that happen almost not at all. There were one or two incidences of it. Not like when Saint George of Fentanyl, committed suicide by cop, and they set the country on fire to obstruct and pervert justice, or part of the big problem that we see is the left faced no consequences for jury tampering and intimidation tactics, and out and out. I mean, a full on. That's what an insurrection is, right? The thing that you saw BLM do with the riots over 2020. That is what an insurrection is. Literally took and held territory and declared it for a cause, and used force and violence to eject government authority and law enforcement. That's an insurrection. Just so we're clear. But we're going to gloss over the whole thing about the killing doctors and all that, because he's talking about one or two isolated incidences that occurred more than 20 years ago and are not relevant to today's conversation because they're just not happening anymore. But he gets down here and he says they're anti-woman. Simple as it gets, anti-woman. Just like I said a little bit ago, the feminist movement is anti-freedom. It's not that you have the freedom to choose to be a mother. It's that you're a bad person if you would rather be a stay-at-home mom and raise a family than go and shatter glass ceilings and try to climb the corporate board. They prefer you to be a frigid, unloving, unhappy whore.
Well, because you have to rely on them.
They prefer you to engage in unattached, non-monogamous, casual sex, and to use abortion as a prophylactic measure. You just go out and try not to suck 37 dicks crossing the parking lot, and then get your little hellhole bleached out. That's where they want you. And then it gets down here. They don't like women. They don't like them. And this sentence, after all this, blows my mind. They believe a woman's primary role is to function as a broodmare for the state. We know this. We know this to be the actual position of the left. Right? The broodmare of the state? He already said it up here. They want neonatal care funded, daycare funded, Head Start programs funded, school lunch funded, food stamps funded, welfare funded. They want all of this that you might want for your child or your child might need to be funded by the taxpayer, involuntarily, at force, under threat and pain of death. Right? These are the people that he's talking about right here.
We tried to help them, and
Y'all
I think
remember
several
Angel?
other agencies, with paying of her rent and the paying of her utilities.
Didn't start to fall apart until social 10 of her 50.
Don't have any clothes. People been donating food just around here, just helping me out with food, and I don't have anything.
We called the Department of Children Incorporated. It isn't enough.
Somebody needs to pay for all my children, and mine and Gary, all our suffering, all our pain. Somebody needs to be held accountable, and they need to pay.
Somebody
We tried
needs
to help
pay
them,
for
and-
all
and-
my... Yes, someone does. And that's you. That's you.
Hey, so I'd just like to throw in a little snark. I'm okay with being considered anti-woman because you then have to define woman. I'll
Please.
make that trade. Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. But I wanted to touch on something you said a minute ago about how the feminists want you to be cold and frigid. If you are getting meaning from your life, from managing a household and helping control a budget so that the bills get paid on time and there's enough money put away at the end of every month to maybe take a vacation every year, and that's a lot of hard work, but it can be a lot of satisfying hard work. It's sort of like cutting your grass, okay? And anybody from
I'm getting there.
What?
I'm
No,
getting
no,
there.
no. That's not what I mean. I know the lawnmower broke. I'm not taking pot shots at you. I'm just pointing out.
I know.
I just point out that it's sort of like cutting your grass, okay? Cutting your grass can suck a lot while you're doing it, especially if you have a push mower and not a rider. But it is so satisfying to get to the end, smell the clean smell, see your nice, neat yard, and know that you worked hard and accomplished a thing and you slightly improved your situation, even if only for the next couple of days. In a lot of ways, having a family and maintaining a household is a lot like that, but constantly. Far more exhausting, far more stressful, but far more rewarding. And honestly, sometimes with far more odor involved than cutting the grass. But that's a whole different thing.
Far more odor,
Yes.
I suppose.
However, if you don't have that satisfaction that comes from life, you're far more susceptible to all of the feminist propaganda bullshit. And one day I'd love for us to get the pro-life warrior on our show. Cypher, damn. I'd love to get the pro-life warrior on our show because I have my own theory that one of the reasons why abortion is so sacrosanct to the left is because that is how you break a woman.
Yes.
Right? Now, it's also how you make
I wish you hadn't brought that up right now because we're at the end of the hour, and we could probably do a whole show on that conversation right there.
But anyhow, a lawn stays mown longer than a house stays clean. Okay, that's...
Oh, hey, babe. Yes, it does.
However, I think
I think that's all we've got today. Y'all be safe out there. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow.
just message you.
Hey, Sean, yeah. Send it over to me in like Facebook Messenger or something, and we'll see if we can't jump on that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You've got me a messenger, right?
Yeah. Sean messages us all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, Steve. Later. Hey, it wasn't as unceremonious as Amber Heard's grumpy there, Steve-O.